Welcome to Lit Vibes Only, where we lit the shit out of books we love and hate. I'm Kelsey, the unhinged, die-hard, romantic and fantasy reader.
And I'm Amanda, the insightful thrill seeker and historical fiction nerd. Welcome once again
Hey.
to our second Lit It or Quit It episode for October. We are officially in spooky season. So exciting. Fully into fall. Before we get into our episode today, we want to remind you to find us on our socials. We're on Instagram at litvibesonly_podcast and TikTok and YouTube at Lit Vibes Only Podcast. So be sure to like, follow, comment, subscribe, all the good things if you are not already. And as always, if you have not yet rated and reviewed our podcast, we kindly request that you take a moment to do that. You could even do it right now. Just pause this podcast and tell yourself that you can't turn it back on until you've rated and reviewed this podcast. If you're on,
takes 2 seconds.
It takes 2 seconds. It really does, especially if you're just rating us, and that does so much. So if you're like, I don't have time, just like literally 0.02 seconds, hit that little 5-star rating. And if you have a little bit of extra time, you can leave us a comment on one of our Spotify episodes, or you can write a review on Apple for the entire podcast. Either one is deeply, deeply appreciated. We thank you guys so much for your support. And we're so glad that you're here today, hanging out with us.
We have a fun episode for you today.
We do. I'm so thrilled about this book that I forced Kelsey to read because I love Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I want her to love Taylor Jenkins Reid too. So
we'll see.
We shall see. I'm so curious. But Kelsey and I have a fun little book event coming up in October.
Yeah.
I guess not in October. Yes, in October, but I'm like getting all, it's September when we're recording this.
Yes.
And once you hear this, it will be after the book event. So I'm like trying to place it. So this will have dropped after we've already gone to the book event. But when we're recording this, it is still September and we have not yet gone. So.
Yes, it is like a week and a half before we go. Yes. But both Amanda and I read Anita de Monte Laughs Last. And it's been on my TBR for a while. And I was randomly scrolling on Elliott Bay Bookstore's website, and they have a monthly book club. And it happened to be Anita de Monte this October. And I happened to see it like a month ago. And so it just kind of worked out perfectly. And I said, hey, Amanda, do you want to read this? Like, we could go to this book club.
Yeah, it's like our first time, because we both have our own book clubs that we're a part of separately. So this is like the first time we've done a book club together. Yep. I'm just curious about how this is going to work, because if it's a book group that's open to the public, like how large is it? How do people contribute? Are we like in separate smaller groups? Like how is it structured? I'm so curious, but we both love Elliott Bay. So it'll be great to go and support.
I feel like book clubs can be very unstructured. Do you have
that's what I'm saying. If it's a bunch of people, how do you have 50 people in an unstructured book club? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I don't know.
So
how do you structure your book club?
Well, we always spend like the first, 45 minutes just catching up, because we're all friends and we're all scattered all over the country. So we just have like our little life updates, and then I don't know, it's just an open discussion. Like folks will talk about what they liked, what they didn't like, and then we just kind of riff off of each other. But it works, right? Because there's 6 to 8 of us versus, a massive crowd of people.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that works. And I personally get really shy talking in a large group of strangers. So I would be more hesitant to contribute in a large group.
Yeah, I feel that too. I'm curious though, how diehard the book club is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If there's big representation, or sometimes those things can be total flops.
Yeah.
There's
exactly.
only a few people. So
I didn't know it was a thing until you mentioned it. Like I didn't even know Elliott Bay did book groups. I thought they just had like authors come in and like those kinds of events and do readings and things. So I was like, we'll see what it's like, and we'll report back and let you know
on our next. Our third episode.
It won't be until until November. You'll hear from us.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because we won't have gone.
I'm getting so confused at what we're recording right now.
I mentioned this before on our podcast, like orienting ourselves in time when we're recording these is really
hard.
confusing sometimes. But we are here and we're excited, and we're going to get to the book in just a second. But Kelsey, what are you currently reading?
Oh my gosh, I have to think for a second. Oh, I don't know if I was still reading this book in the last recording.
Okay.
Did I mention an Ali Hazelwood book? Do you remember?
I mean, you often mention Ali Hazelwood, so it's quite possible.
It's called The Summer Problematic Summer Romance.
Yes, you
did.
Did
I mention
this.
that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still reading that one.
Okay. Well, because you mentioned you were reading it, I think, at night before bed, and so it was like slow going. Okay.
Oh, super slow going. Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a very specific place that I am reading that book.
That's
the only place I am reading it.
How does it compare to her other books you've read so far?
It's pretty good. Like I'm enjoying it, but I'm not like a diehard for it, you know? Because if I was like a Fourth Wing book, right? Like Fourth Wing I gobbled up, but this book I'm not gobbling up. I'm enjoying it, but not immersed in it.
You're just like meandering through the story.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
That's fair. I am actually reading a Kelsey book. This is going to be featured in one of our upcoming, I guess, November. Yeah, our November Lit It or Quit It. I've got it right here for folks who are
so excited.
On
I know you're
not. On YouTube. It is A Forbidden Alchemy by Stacey McEwen, I think that's how you say her name.
Yeah.
I'm a little under halfway through. I started it last night. I'm not going to say much because I don't want Kelsey to know what I think.
Your post.
And well, that was before I started reading it though.
Oh, it was before you started reading it?
I hadn't started it. So
I have no idea what you're thinking.
If you follow us on TikTok, I had posted that I was reading it this weekend because my book bestie was forcing me, but that was before I started reading it. So no spoilers. If you want to know my final thoughts on this book, you'll just have to tune in next month. But yeah, that's what I've been.
I thought it was different than other fantasy books that we've read. So we'll see.
Oh,
we'll see what you think.
Like different in what way?
Well, it starts out the very beginning, and this isn't a spoiler. It starts out they are children.
Yeah. And then they kind of reunite later.
It kind of grows their entire story from there.
Yeah, that's true. I did have a different start. So yeah, my lips are sealed otherwise, and we'll talk about that
wait to hear
next month.
Whether or not you hate it or love it, I don't care. I still love it.
I will let you know. But yeah, we're gonna talk about Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid today. Gosh, why did I pick this book for Kelsey? Well, one, I love TJR. I've read, 4 of her books. I'm about to start Malibu Rising after I finish A Forbidden Alchemy. I'm super excited. She writes almost exclusively historical fiction, which I'm a huge fan of. They're all female-focused stories. They focus on a variety of settings and life experiences. So in this particular novel, it's focused on female astronauts in the 80s. Daisy Jones in the Six takes place in like the 60s in the music industry. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo takes place in the movie industry. And I think she also does a great job of doing her research. So yeah, love her stuff. And I wanted to expose Kelsey to this author and hopefully finally get her to enjoy some historical fiction. I know I've gotten a couple of lit-its from her for Kindred.
Yeah.
I think that's the only
historical
fiction so far.
Well, wait, how many historical fiction?
Because I think you liked The Frozen River, right? Or
was it a soft lit? I don't remember.
It might have been it definitely wasn't it might have been a soft lit.
Yeah. But Horse was Quit It.
Horse was a Quit It.
What was the other?
What else did I had you read as historical fiction?
It's hard to remember.
I feel like I know after a year.
We have such a big repertoire now. I can't remember.
Yeah, but historically, Kelsey has not liked my historical fiction picks.
Yes.
And I had a sneaking suspicion that she would like this one, especially because it's not, way in the past. It's in the 80s. It really is a love story that's at the core of this in a lot of ways. So I thought that might be something she might be interested to read about. So yeah. So my question for you, Kelsey,
is,
and I feel like I already know, but was this book a lit it or quit it for you?
I mean, did you see my book rating for it?
I did not
happened to put it on yesterday.
No, I didn't see it.
And I finished this Friday evening.
Okay.
Because I always finish like right before because it just feels like the best timing. But
it's fresh in your mind if you do it that way.
It was absolute lit it. No, like
Yes. Oh, finally.
ifs,
I knew
ands, or
it. I
buts
knew it. I
about
knew
it
it. I was pretty
for
confident with
a
this
lot of
choice.
reasons, but yeah, we'll get into that.
Excellent. All right. Well, then you've got a summary
You
for
actually
us.
got 5 stars out of me, Amanda. It was a 5-star
What?
read.
Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah.
did not see your rating. Oh my God. I need to just take a moment and just
Breathe it
like
in.
revel in this glorious moment. Wow. Have you ever given me 5 stars
I
for
don't
any of
think
our
so.
books?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so. That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay. I have given you 5 stars for your books, but this is my
What
first
5 stars
one.
have you given?
I definitely did a 5 star for what is it? Court of Wings and Ruins
Okay.
for Akawar.
Akawar. Okay.
I'm pretty sure I gave that 5 stars. I might have given Akamath 5 stars too.
Oh.
Or maybe it was 4. I don't know. But I definitely have given at least one of the Akawar books 5 stars.
Yeah. I would guess it was Akawar. But
And
I
I
think that's
feel
the
like
only
I think
one.
I gave Trail of Lightning five
Oh,
stars
maybe.
too.
Yeah. I forgot about
Um,
that book.
I know it was back in the day. But yeah, okay. I'm gonna
Okay.
stop talking so you can give us the summary.
So I have our summary. And what I tend to do with summaries is I put it into ChatGPT and I'm like, give me a summary. And this time it could not give me a very detailed summary. So I had to fill in some blanks here.
Okay.
So it's a mixture
Great.
of the internet's summaries and my own. Okay. So Joan Goodwin is an astronomy professor at Rice University in Houston in the late 1970s. She has a sister, Barbara, who is a single mother raising her daughter, Frances. Joan has been a steady figure in Frances's life, almost like a second parent. And Barbara increasingly leans on Joan for childcare and support, causing resentment to build. And Barbara feels trapped while Joan feels both obligated and stifled. NASA announces that it will begin accepting women into the astronaut corps. And Joan applies first, gets denied, and then is accepted the second time they run applications into the new class of astronaut candidates. Joan must balance training with her continued family obligations, which leads to growing conflict with Barbara. Frances, however, becomes even closer to Joan. And so then we move into astronaut training where Joan joins, a diverse cohort of trainees. And that includes her like main folks that she builds relationships with. Vanessa Ford, a charismatic engineer and pilot. Lydia Danes, intensely competitive and ambitious. Often people don't like her because of her ambition and her competitiveness with others. This also includes Griff, Hank, and Donna, who kind of round out their friend group. Training involves survival drills, zero gravity flights, simulations of shuttle launches and reentries, and constant technical exams. Joan struggles at times with the physical demands, but proves herself with her scientific expertise and calm under pressure. That's a big attribute that she holds, is her calmness under pressure. She begins to bond deeply with Vanessa during the long, stressful training. And then Joan and Vanessa's friendship blossoms into a romantic relationship. But because of the time period and the culture, because this is the 80s, at NASA, they must keep their relationship hidden from colleagues and supervisors. And I think another caveat to understand is that because they were astronauts in this time, their life was semi-public to folks. And their relationship becomes a private sanctuary amid the intensity of training and the scrutiny of being among the first women astronauts. And then some rising tensions with Barbara and her family. So Barbara starts to date a man named Daniel, and she leaves Frances with Joan one weekend very abruptly. Joan takes care of Frances that weekend, but Barbara doesn't return when she says she will. So Joan has to remove some of her things that she had planned, thinking that Barbara was going to be back with Frances, but she has to go pick her up from school, and then hangs out with Frances the entire evening until Barbara returns. And Barbara is becoming pretty attached to this guy, Daniel. And Frances grows even more attached to Joan. She's a stable and inspiring figure in her life. And Joan is torn between her sense of duty to take care of her family and her ambitions at NASA. So eventually, after a few years of training, the astronauts are placed on missions, and Joan is the first in her group of folks to be assigned a mission. Lydia is upset with her, but everyone else is not surprised because Joan is very skilled and intelligent. During her mission, she is sick almost the whole time and decides she doesn't want to go to space again and requests to become Capcom, which is the capsule communicator in mission control instead. It's a vital link between Houston and the shuttle crew. And so then after Joan is assigned, Vanessa, Lydia, Hank, and Griff are all assigned to the same mission. And I think their mission was to place a satellite. And then during that, oh my God, what is it called? Their flight, their mission to space, December 29th, 1984. Yeah, they deploy a satellite and disaster strikes the navigator. An explosion causes rapid depressurization in the cabin, and most of the crew loses consciousness immediately. Hank dies quickly after the incident. Griff is badly injured from the explosion. And Lydia Danes manages to seal the leak, but collapses from injury and exhaustion. Vanessa remains the only fully conscious astronaut on board. And from mission control, Joan becomes the voice, like guiding Vanessa through what has just happened. And this is happening throughout the book. You're getting things uncovered throughout the book as you learn about the history of the group and Joan and Vanessa. Joan relays technical instructions, keeping Vanessa calm, and works under the intense scrutiny of superiors who insist she follow strict protocol. And even though Joan knows Vanessa personally and intimately, she must act with professional detachment to maintain her role. The tension is heightened as Joan is forced to watch helplessly from the ground while the woman she loves risks her life. And finally, Vanessa gets official orders to prioritize saving the shuttle and herself, but Lydia is still alive. Griff has died while she was trying to fix this mechanical issue on board. And so eventually Vanessa decides to defy those instructions, and she, in order to try and save Lydia, along with herself. And it's a huge risk because it's unknown how much pressure the doors can withstand because there's a malfunction going on. Thinking about re-entry, Vanessa, again, manages to guide both Lydia and Vanessa safely back to Earth. And that's like the very, very end of the book. And then I'm going back to this happened right before Vanessa's mission during Thanksgiving, but some family pieces that kind of fill out the story is that Joan comes back from her space mission, which was right before Vanessa and the other crew's mission. And Barbara decides to put Frances into boarding school. And Barbara had decided to essentially abandon her daughter for her new husband who never wanted children. And so there was this tension going on for Joan by allowing her sister to do this to Frances. But she had thought that she was going to see her on Thanksgiving after Joan returns. But she finds out that Barbara left Frances at school for Thanksgiving so she could travel Europe. And Joan confronts her sister and tells her she's taking Frances, and Barbara gives her permission to raise Frances. So really, in the end, Vanessa, Frances, and Joan build a genuine sense of belonging and stability while carrying the scars of what they endured in space and at home. Dun, 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 the end.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you. Yeah, the book does have a dual timeline. So it starts off with, as Kelsey said, them in space on this mission. Something goes wrong, and then you're constantly flashing back to the past and learning more about each of these characters, their relationships with each other, and what got them to this point. And yeah, Barbara does end up marrying Daniel, and her big draw for marrying Daniel is that he's this very wealthy man, very well established. She's been struggling as a single mother for many years. She also is, as you see in the novel, quite self-centered and tends to prioritize herself before her daughter, even before her sister, who she fully takes advantage of Joan's willingness to help raise Frances. And so ultimately, she basically disowns her daughter and gives Joan guardianship of Frances. And so we see her and Vanessa and Frances kind of form this family unit by the end of the book. But lots of good stuff in this book, lots of heartbreaking moments, lots of really great
Mhm.
relationships, lots of cool stuff about space. So, yeah. So, Kelsey, what were some of your favorite things from this book? Let's start there.
I mean, really everything.
I suppose
It
so,
was
if it's a
really
5-star
great.
book.
Yeah, it was a really well written, beautiful story about yeah, humanity and love and yeah, I fell in love with the characters and the history and storyline. But to be specific, I I really enjoyed Vanessa and Joan's story
Hmm.
and the fact that it was taking place in the 80s
Hmm.
and really thinking about what that would have been like for two lesbians just trying to love one another. And it really got me thinking and reflecting on one of my uncles who passed 2 years ago, 2 summers ago. And he was born in the 40s and
Hmm.
was always an openly gay man
Hmm.
and would sometimes dress in drag.
Hmm.
And I just think about all those stories. What exactly was life like to have this identity? And he was very open about it, my uncle. But then thinking about like Vanessa and Joan,
Hmm.
they couldn't be. They felt like they couldn't be, right? And so it was very interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think too, because after I finished reading the book, I was doing like a little bit of research and I actually didn't
Uh-huh.
know this, but Sally Ride, who is briefly featured in this book because she was the first woman to go to space, she
Oh yeah,
also
that's
was
right.
a lesbian and
Oh.
had to hide her relationship for a very, very long time. And it wasn't until I think as she was dying, her partner, her life partner was like, when you pass away, is it okay for me to tell people what our relationship was publicly finally? And
Oh my God.
she was like, yeah, you can. And so the fact that for their entire lives, essentially, aside from the people who were really close to them, most people didn't know that,
Wow.
she was in this relationship and that she was queer. And I'm assuming, because I didn't look at any interviews with TJR or anything, but I'm assuming that
Mhm.
Sally Ride's story very much informed
Sure.
the writing of this book and just female experiences in NASA in the 80s,
Yeah.
late 70s. And so I thought that was a really interesting connection. And to your point, I wonder what it was
Mhm.
like. Well, we have Sally Ride's, like her experience. And recently, quite recently, I haven't watched it. There was a documentary that was released about her life, and about
Oh,
her
okay.
experiences, which I do want to watch because I feel like it would give a lot of really good insight into what that might have been
Mhm.
like for, yeah, a queer person just in general at that time, but also in a very public, as you said, a very public, you
Mhm.
know, facing role because
Mhm.
astronauts are, these national heroes and they're going around as
Totally.
we see in the book, like they're going to schools and speaking at events and
Mhm.
meeting, politicians. And
Right.
so you very much couldn't have
Be
your
anonymous.
sexuality on display, especially if it
Yeah.
wasn't, if you weren't in a heterosexual relationship. So
Mhm.
I love that she dived into that. Yeah, because it's a different dynamic than if you were a gay person who was like, I don't know, a banker.
Mhm.
So yeah, I really like that as well.
Yeah, and just all of the small details about remembering what it was like before like cell phones and the
Oh yeah.
internet and everything. I loved that aspect of it too. She's like talking about mailing in her application and you're
Hmm.
like, "What the fuck?" You're like,
Although
"Yeah, of
I had to
course."
mail in all of my college applications.
Yeah, yeah.
That was in like
So,
the early 2000s, but yeah,
mhm.
it was a different time for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's funny because this book is about, essentially this advanced technology or like space travel. And at the same time,
Mhm.
their everyday lives like, oh my gosh, yeah, they don't have like cell phones or the internet or
Yeah. Or all the times
any of
that
these
like
things.
the whole thing with Barbara and why that happened was because they didn't have cell phones. It's because she couldn't
Oh, right. When
call
she
to
couldn't,
be like,
yes, I'm
"Hey,
not
I
gonna
missed my
be.
flight," or whatever she was doing,
Yeah, yeah. Oh God. I, which I know I think you're supposed to strongly dislike Barbara, but she aggravated me
Oh,
to no
uh-huh.
end. Her, just like her intense selfishness and self-centeredness and her complete and utter disregard for her child was just so
Yeah.
infuriating. And the way that Joan Joan was interesting to me because she is incredibly ambitious. She's incredibly intelligent.
Uh-huh.
She's accomplishing amazing things. And at the same time, she doesn't really have the backbone to stand up to her sister and
Mm.
just lets her sister take advantage of her, walk all
Yeah.
over her. And that was just like a really interesting contrast because, of course, both things can be true.
Oh,
And I was like, why can't you apply kind of the same, I don't know, drive and intensity that you have for your work in your relationship with Barbara?
absolutely.
That was really hard to
She kind
watch.
of eventually gets there though, right?
Yeah, I
And
mean, she
that's why
does. She
she
does.
tells her off. And then
Yeah.
Barbara's, yeah, this is actually what I wanted the whole time, is like kind of how it read.
Yeah.
But it made sense that Frances was always going to be Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a really beautiful line. I think it might be in one of my reviews that I'll read later
Mhm.
when Joan is talking to Frances and basically telling her that, yeah, you've always been mine, you know, and just like,
Yeah.
oh, just
I
so
know.
many tears shed in this book. God,
How many times did you cry?
oh, I know for sure at least twice, probably more, but definitely when she's having that moment with Frances. Obviously at
Mhm.
the end, and here's the thing, not to just jump to the ending already, but like this book was really interesting because it could have ended both ways. Like it could have ended with Vanessa dying,
Yeah.
and I would have been okay with that. And
Yeah.
it almost would have been more like, I don't know, gripping and poignant.
Yeah.
And it also works with her being alive, right? And, you
Yeah.
know, they've already been through so much. And so the fact that they finally have a chance to build a
Yeah.
future together. But yeah, when you hear her voice come over, like whatever, the
I
communication
know.
system at the end, I fell apart. I just,
So when you're reading a book, you can easily tell, oh, this is the last page I'm reading,
I
right?
bet you were doing the audiobook.
But in audiobooks, I was like, what the fuck? That's it?
Mm-hmm.
It stopped so abruptly at the end. And I was like, oh my
Oh,
God. Yeah. And so I get it. And there wasn't really much more to go into. Their story
yeah,
was leading up to this point
right.
where they know that they're going to be together, but continue to face the same issues. But
Yeah,
clearly, like in those last moments, like people were realizing what they meant to each other,
yeah,
even though they weren't saying it exactly.
yeah.
It was clear that Vanessa was going to lose her job as an astronaut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because she didn't follow protocol. They're both going to be landside basically for
Mm-hmm.
the rest of their lives. But
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it was very interesting.
It was a very intense ending.
It was a very
Very,
intense
very
ending.
intense. I could see it playing out so clearly in my mind. And for those
Yeah.
folks who didn't read the book, just for a little bit of clarity, as Vanessa is getting ready to attempt re-entry,
Mm-hmm.
right, to Earth,
Mm-hmm.
they lose their communication. Like, so
And
Mission
like that's
Control
normal.
loses, yeah, which is normal. They
Mm-hmm.
lose their communication as they're re-entering. But because the ship has this mechanical malfunction,
Mm-hmm.
the chances of them not making it are so much higher. And
Mm-hmm.
so when her voice cuts out and there's nothing, Joan falls apart.
Joan. Yeah.
She's a mess in Mission Control. She's like reflecting on the relationship. She's essentially said goodbye. Like
Yeah.
she's already started the grieving process. And then out of the ether, you
Yeah.
hear Vanessa's voice. So it really is this truly dramatic moment. Because as the reader,
Yeah.
you're like, all right, you're processing your feelings, you're letting Vanessa go, you're
Yep.
realizing that's the end of the relationship, and it's one of those
Yeah.
like gut-wrenching endings to a love story. And then she just,
She's
they
there
just
actually. And she made the
TJ,
right choice,
she
you
made the
know?
right choice to save
And
Lydia.
yeah, and it's funny because everyone hated Lydia, right? Like they hated her,
Yes.
but in a way where it's, oh, that's the annoying little sister that's trying to
Hmm.
like one up everybody.
Yeah, and she's just socially awkward at the same time too.
Yes.
Because like again, for those folks who didn't read it, she's this astronaut. She's also very much like Joan, incredibly intelligent, incredibly
Yes.
ambitious. Like no holds barred is out to be the best female astronaut
Yeah.
ever. And she doesn't know how to like temper that with also just being a good teammate and comrade.
Yes.
But she wants, like deep down, she wants that. She wants
Hmm.
connection. She wants to be liked and accepted. And she
Yeah.
isn't sure how to find that balance. And Joan really is the only person who's willing to give her grace and put up with
Hmm.
her
Yeah.
until, Lydia does finally soften and kind of come
Yeah.
around. And so, yeah, so then it's especially meaningful that Lydia is the one that Vanessa chooses
Yes.
to save because they don't have the
Hmm.
best relationship.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's willing to risk her life for this woman who she's not particularly close
Yeah.
to says a lot.
And because I think it also speaks to the relationships that the astronauts have in general,
Yeah.
even though she's annoying to many people,
Yeah.
she's still their family, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my favorite moments in the book was Lydia's confrontation with Joan about why she got picked for a mission first, because that was Lydia's whole idea, is that I'm the smartest, I'm going to be picked for a mission first. And everyone thought that too. And then surprise, surprise, Joan gets picked for a mission and it's before Lydia.
Well, but not everybody thinks Lydia is the smartest, because I remember when they're at the bar, Vanessa's no Lydia. Like, Joan is just as smart, if not smarter than you are.
Oh, yeah. But what Lydia does do, and everybody knows that she does do, is that she's very persistent and like super hardworking, and she wants that top spot. So she's kind of giving this air of, I'm going to get it. Right.
Yeah.
And so Joan has this conversation with her. She's like, it's not just about you, Lydia. It's about all of us. And it's about our strengths that lend itself well to the collective. And I thought that was a really great moment. And you could tell, like, in the writing, that Lydia was like, fuck, I have to think about this. And she's really trying to take this in from Joan.
Yeah. But it also speaks to a larger issue within womanhood and feminism, right? Is that,
for sure,
if we want to move women forward, we have to do it together. And historically, we've seen, that's not always the case, right? Some women are like, I don't care about how this is going to impact my sisters. I'm going to make sure that I achieve this thing, and like, everyone else be damned. And Joan, at one point, I believe it's Joan, she makes some comment, and she might be in conversation with some of the other women, how if one of the women in this program makes a mistake or slips up in some way, that ruins the chances for every other woman, both present and future, to make it in this program, because they're being judged as a collective, and everyone's waiting for, one of these new female astronauts to drop the ball so that it can reinforce their idea that, yes, women don't belong in space. And here we have proof. We're shutting down this program. Women go back, to the classrooms, go back to the kitchens, whatever. And so, it is this idea that, if we want to make progress, if we want to dismantle sexism and the patriarchy, it's only going to happen when women are supporting other women and not trying to work against each other. And it's something that Lydia has to learn, and it learns over the course of this book.
Because part of what Lydia is doing is undermining a lot of what's going on for the women, because she's trying to be a man in the man's club, and she laughs at their inappropriate jokes and sides with the men. And I think Joan is the one that helps Lydia start to see like her errors. So I loved that storyline too.
Yeah. She gets her little redemption arc for sure. Which was nice. Because at the beginning, you're like, ugh. And it's interesting because Lydia does get one. Lydia comes around, and by the end of it, I'm like, oh, Lydia, you've got a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
But Barbara doesn't. Like, I didn't really feel like there was a redemption arc for her. Not that there has to be, but she kind of is the villain
in the story.
Throughout
and
the
Daniel.
whole. Yeah. And you don't really see her. There's never a moment where she's like, let me stop for a minute. Take stock of what I am doing and my actions and how they're impacting other people,
or my
how
child.
it's destroying my child's life. And she never does that. And it was really devastating to see that, especially as you mentioned in the summary, because Frances is having a really hard time adjusting to her mom marrying this new man. Who largely ignores her
and doesn't like her.
And so as Frances understandably is getting more moody and more withdrawn, her mother's response isn't to reach out and to help her. It's to ship her off to boarding school because she's being troublesome, and literally leaves her there. And so you see this young girl who's trying to find her place and find someone who loves her unconditionally, and it ends up not being her mom, right? Joan becomes that person for her. So that was just devastating to watch, and I mean, ultimately uplifting because her and Joan have an amazing relationship. But that broke my heart to see a mother be so completely disinterested in her child's life and just so lacking in empathy and understanding.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And even
Barbara.
just so
Gross.
blind she is and how she pokes at Joan's romantic life and has
Yeah.
no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, do you remember that time where they were talking about this? She's like, you can't bring a woman to my wedding. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and she was
Mm-hmm.
going off about this. And then Daniel takes Barbara to the back room or
Yeah.
something and tells
Yeah.
her something and is like, you need to let her, whatever. And I'm like
Yeah.
curious about that. Like, why did Daniel do that? What is your hunch?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea actually. I don't know if it was just simply to keep the peace and just like
Mm.
smooth things over with Joan. I also wonder if in some corner of his mind he can see that Joan and Francis are tight and that they get along well.
Oh,
Like, I need to keep this woman on our good side because she is going to be
yeah.
essential in helping us manage this child, right? So maybe that was strategic on his part as well, because if they had alienated Joan in any way, it might have come back to bite them later when they
Mm-hmm.
then would want to rely on Joan for childcare, or whatever it
Right.
might be. So maybe I don't know. I didn't spend too much time thinking about it, but it did seem a bit out of character for him because he
Mm-hmm.
seems very like by the book, very rigid in his thinking, very like old school and traditional.
Yeah,
So it
because
was
I
surprising.
I don't think it had anything to do with him knowing that Joan
No.
was lesbian.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I don't
But
think so
that's kind
either.
of the only thing that you would think, right? Other than what you just said. If you
Yeah.
dig a little deeper, you're like, maybe it was more like this, but
Yeah. I
it was
mean,
just interesting
maybe.
why that moment was in there.
Yeah.
Or
I
was
mean,
it, I just, the whole thing, I just kept thinking about Daniel. Maybe he was like abusive to Barbara. And I was curious about the dynamic there.
oh, yeah.
I mean, for someone to convince you to get rid of your child, essentially, that's
Yeah, but
a
she didn't
big
need
ass
much
deal.
convincing, right? She
I
already
know,
had one foot
but
out the door. Like, Joan was already basically raising Francis. So I don't think it took that much for him to be like, yeah, send her to boarding school. Like,
maybe.
like she clearly wanted to go and live the life that she felt was stolen from her when she got
Yeah.
pregnant so young and was a teen
Yeah.
mom. So I don't think she was that broken up about it.
Yeah. No, she definitely didn't read that way
Yeah.
on the in the in the book. God,
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah. On the page in the
But
book.
but oh, there was one other thing. Oh, I was gonna say too that I felt like Barbara and Joan's relationship was very realistic because sometimes when your family members make
Mm-hmm.
shitty decisions,
Mm-hmm.
you are helping them clean it up
Oh,
and
yeah.
helping them with it.
Oh,
And
for
it's like
sure.
that came off so
Yep.
true in
Yeah.
this book and that dynamic.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially that like older, younger dynamic, older
Oh,
sibling, younger
true.
sibling
Hmm.
dynamic, and how often, not always, older siblings, there's this expectation placed on
Yeah,
them
too.
or just higher expectations in general
Hmm.
that
You
are
got your
not.
parents first, and it
Yes,
was like
exactly. And that
stricter
is
rules
very
and
true in my family for sure.
yeah.
It does create a particular dynamic that I do think, yeah, was pretty accurately depicted in
Hmm.
this story and did feel very gritty and real.
Yeah.
And yeah, and to be fair to Barbara, yes, she makes horrible decisions and I don't think she's a particularly good person, but
Hmm.
you Taylor does give Barbara space in the novel to try to justify or explain why she is the way she is, if that makes sense, right?
Mm.
So, she is this teen mom who made poor decisions as an adolescent, as we all do, and hers just happened to have lifelong consequences. But she, you know, does feel like she didn't have the opportunities because of that Joan did. And so there is resentment there. And like life is unfair. I got saddled with this kid so young, and it's kept
Hmm.
me from having a life that would allow me to pursue a job that would help me to earn more money,
Hmm.
going to school, like all of these things. And so like her resentment, while I'm not saying it's a good thing, is understandable. Like I'm sure she's not the only teen mom that was like, damn, I got pregnant and I made a really stupid choice and now I'm living with the consequences and
Hmm.
I have a lot of big feelings about that.
Hmm.
And she just, ends up processing them in a way that's unhealthy. But you do see in different conversations kind of why she is the way that she is. And again, not saying that it's
Yeah.
okay, but she's she's a human. She's just,
Yeah.
you know.
And that just reminds me of like when Joan was talking about how she tattled on her sister, right? But it was after she had Francis. And then Barbara was going to go out and do the same shit she's always been doing.
Yeah.
And Joan was like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
seriously.
Yeah. Because Barbara does have, a tendency to go out, and she was a wild child. She was a wild
Yeah.
child in her youth. And so, you know, as my great grandma would say, you make your bed hard, you lie in it. And, she made these choices and
Yes.
doesn't, yeah.
So interesting. I
Yeah.
loved that tidbit though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, I really loved the depiction of Joan becoming aware that she was a lesbian because she thinks that something's wrong with her, right? Because the only way that she has seen love depicted is a man and a woman, right? And then eventually she doesn't even see it coming, right? She doesn't even see it
No.
coming and it just happens. And she's having this conversation with Vanessa and like
Yeah.
talking about, wait,
Well,
what?
but she has that moment though. So Griff, who we haven't talked about too much.
Yes.
Griff is one of the other astronauts in their group, obviously a dude. And
Yeah.
he's attracted to Joan, and they have this burgeoning friendship, and it's clear that he wants to get to know her in a romantic sense, et cetera. And at one point in the story, they take a trip down to, I believe, New Orleans. And
Yes.
there's this moment in the evening, and like Joan has continued to be kind of evasive with Griff and not give him a straight answer. And I think they've gone on a couple of dates at this point, but it's just not gelling for Joan. And that's the night when she kisses Griff.
Yes.
She's just, maybe I just need to like get out of my head and, kiss this man and do what I'm supposed to do as a woman and fall in love with a guy.
Yeah.
And she realizes, as does Griff in that moment, like, oh, and he tells her, like, you have feelings for someone else, implying that it's Vanessa, because it's very clear to other people that she has feelings for her. And it's really that moment in New Orleans where things start to shift for her. And they also go to that strip club,
But right before that, it was the strip
and she's
club.
like, oh my God, all of these women are really doing something for me. And so between that and the kiss with Griff, that's like her kind of little epiphany.
And it was so funny. Like going back to the strip club, she like stays there for extended time, right? And she's just watching this woman, Raven. And apparently Vanessa leaves, right? And
yes, Vanessa's not happy.
Joan wakes up in the morning and she also is an artist. And so she drew all these photos or pictures of Raven, this woman that the stripper that she was staring at the whole time. And then, Vanessa makes a comment that morning, I think. And
because she comes to wake her up because she's late.
Yes. And she's like, she's the only one that looked like me.
Yeah.
I love that moment. It was so great.
Yeah. It was a great way to kind of like illustrate this shift that, Joan is finally realizing that maybe she's not into dudes. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine how terrifying that realization must have been, especially in the early 80s when, this really wasn't accepted. I mean, there were obviously people who were queer and out at that time, but often at great risk to themselves. And again, certainly not in a position as prestigious of a position as she was in as, part of the NASA program. Yeah. So yeah, I thought Taylor did a really good job of kind of illustrating that. And if I'm remembering correctly, I'm like, yeah, Taylor is bi, Taylor Jenkins Reid.
Okay.
And so I'm sure part of her own experiences she uses to inform her writing as a queer person as well. But yeah, I really love that. But that scene at the strip club is, because as a reader, you're like, oh, I know what's happening here, right?
Yes.
Even though Joan doesn't fully understand yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a little bit of dramatic irony happening, and that was really cool. I liked it.
Yeah. So yeah, I loved that. And then their whole love story, it's just, they just dive right in. And then Vanessa's like, yeah, I don't get attached. And that's this whole thing of like, I don't meet family.
Yeah. Yeah, because she doesn't want to meet Francis for the longest time. She's like, I don't want to do it because this is fun. And especially because there was no like set future at that time. You couldn't get married, et cetera. And often would have to hide your relationships. Oh, but that just reminded me. Oh, that's what it was. There is that moment, which also was like, oh, so gut wrenching. There's so many gut wrenching moments.
There really are.
Vanessa and Joan break up because someone in the space program has basically ratted them out to their superiors. And so Joan gets called into, and I'm blanking on the guy's name, but like
Antonio, I think.
Antonio, and her supervisor's office. And he basically in a very coded way is like, hey, if you are gay and in a relationship, like you can't be in this program. Like,
stop it.
Like either end the relationship or you're not going to be able to stay here. And so that really rattles Joan because that was that right before her mission or after her mission?
Yeah, it was right before
her mission. Yeah. And so she's like, I'm not going to risk, my chance of going to space, and also Vanessa, who's wanted this so much.
Yeah.
So she kind of calls Vanessa over. They have this conversation and Joan ends it with Vanessa. And Vanessa's like, I would rather never fly again than not have you. But they like end things. And then Vanessa basically goes across the street and calls her on a payphone.
On the payphone.
And is like, I don't accept this breakup. And they come back together. And it's really beautiful. But
I thought it was going to be real. I thought it was
too.
That is what was going to happen. And I was like, and now she's in space and she's going to die. And they just broke up.
Yep. Yeah. Because again, they're switching back and forth between the timelines. And so you're like, oh, they had this conversation and she's going to die and they're never going to have reconciled. They're going to still be broken up. But no, they like get back together almost immediately. So
from the beginning, I thought I had this book pegged. I was like, Vanessa's dying.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was actually really surprised about it, especially not just that she doesn't die, but because of what happens with Barbara as well. I thought there was going to be some sort of like abuse thing happening to Frances, or
that's
like
what I thought too.
To her or something, but really it was just negligence, I guess.
Yeah.
Or what is that called?
Yeah. Negligence.
You
just aren't like taking care of your kid.
Yeah. And then sending her to boarding school was like a huge turn for me. I was like, wait, what? Didn't see that coming either. So I was pleasantly surprised. But the fact that I actually cried at the very beginning of the book.
Oh.
Where you find out Hank and who is it? Hank and who is the other guy that dies?
Because there's Hank and Griff.
But Griff gets hit by the explosion and doesn't die right away. There's two guys that die from like suffocation.
I thought the crew was just Hank, Griff, Lydia, and Vanessa, just the four of them. Are there five?
I think that there's their fifth person because there's two bodies that she puts in the room where you go out to space.
Oh, you're right.
And I don't know who the other person is.
I don't know. You read it more recently than I did. So
when they died, I was like, and Griff died. I was just like, oh God.
Yeah. It was just, and they're the wives of these men are like in, the room or like listening on the radio, and you're just like, oh my gosh, listening to the fact that their loved ones have passed.
Yeah.
But I guess my question for you is, why do you think TJR didn't have Vanessa die? Because she could have like the book works with her dying. Why do you think she didn't?
Yeah. I mean, I think it speaks more to, because the book was about not necessarily tragedy, but it was about their love story as lesbians in the 80s. And I think that if she lives, the reader is going to be thinking about, oh, what is their life going to look like in the future too? And it leaves more open than closed, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And I think that, I don't think I'm like explaining it well, but I think the point of the story was their love story and the backdrop of the 80s, and their story doesn't end here. And their issues and conflicts are not just ending. They are going to continue throughout. Yeah. I don't know. I think that's like very compelling.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, I think it works both ways. So I was just curious why you think
why do you think?
There's no right answer. I don't know if I have a good answer either. I mean, I think because I think there's a couple of things. It's like, one, the queer community historically has already endured so much, right? Sometimes, when we think about books about race, it's like, well, we don't want our race to be defined by trauma. We don't want our race to be defined solely by tragedy and all the things that we've had done to us.
Yeah.
And so I think giving this queer couple a happy ending essentially is really important, so that they're not just defined by like their struggles, their conflicts, their challenges. So for me, I think that's part of the reason why she chose for Vanessa to survive and for them to get this opportunity to build a life together, especially because like a lot of people, you know, didn't, right? For a variety of reasons, didn't get
Yeah.
that opportunity. So that was my thinking, is that as with any marginalized group, you don't want our stories to always be defined by the negative, right? Because we're so much more than that. And there's like a lot of joy in our stories. And so that was my thinking when I read it. Yeah. And I really, I think providing Frances with a
Yeah.
home, a family that truly wanted her and cared about her was really important. Vanessa was a part of that, right?
Yeah.
It's a big part of that. So that was my thinking as to why. I don't know. I didn't read, like I said, I don't normally read author interviews because I like to make up my own mind about things. But yeah, I think that's why.
I
Maybe.
love seeing authors like in person. That's so fun to me.
Yeah.
Especially if it's an author that you really love. Like
Yeah.
I saw Angeline Boley, what was it, last month? This month? Earlier this month.
Oh
And it
yeah, when
was
you went up to
just
Canada.
so impactful. I was like,
Yeah.
damn, like I just felt so great after that.
Yeah.
And just more insight into who she is and like
Yeah.
why she writes her books. Like
Yeah.
it was really great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've gotten to see authors speak at conferences. Like I've seen
Yeah.
Bryan Stevenson speak twice, which was amazing because he's the one who wrote Just Mercy. So yeah, I would oh my gosh, I need to actually see if she's ever coming to Seattle. I would love to see TGR like in person and go to a
Oh
chat
yeah.
about one of her
Whenever
books.
doesn't she have a book coming out next year? I
I
feel
don't
like
know.
I saw it.
I've been like so caught up in Atmosphere because I was like she
Yeah.
just released it this year. I
Yeah.
maybe, I mean she's
When
pretty
was this one
prolific
released?
this year.
Well, when this year?
Oh, in the beginning of the summer, the end of spring,
Oh,
I
okay. So it's a
think.
very recent book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty new.
Mhm.
Quite new. But yeah, do you have any other final thoughts about this book or anything that you didn't like? Because we didn't actually talk about the negatives, but I guess if it's a five
Yeah.
star, there probably weren't maybe any or
Yeah, the only thing that I thought I had the book pegged and then it surprised me. So at the beginning I was like, okay.
yeah,
But it
yeah.
surprised me. But the one other scene that I wanted to discuss was the fact that Joan really loves the stars and has just so much knowledge about
Mm-hmm.
the stars and then
Mm-hmm.
teaches Vanessa. So I just
Mm-hmm.
love those moments. That's one of my favorite activities is just like staring up into the sky. I never
Mm-hmm.
want to go up into space because that is fucking terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the awe of looking at the stars and not knowing what's out there, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
And so that part was special to me and
Yeah.
hit a chord
Oh,
for me.
yeah. They go out stargazing together. It's very
Yes.
cute.
That's
Yeah.
so sweet.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah.
because what, Vanessa's a pilot.
Yes.
And you don't necessarily need to have a good grasp of the stars to do that.
Nope.
But now that you're heading out to space, it's a little bit different.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think it was a cute way to show their growing relationship in those moments.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Awesome.
Yay.
Okay, well, then well, actually, I guess I was going to do final recommendations, but I feel like it's a no brainer. I feel like we'd both recommend it.
Yeah, I feel like any reader
Yeah.
could enjoy this book.
Yeah.
I'm even thinking like my husband could enjoy this book, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And he's just a very particular like horror
Yeah.
reader.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's currently
Yeah.
reading, oh gosh, Firekeeper's Daughter.
Oh, yay.
Because I got him onto that one.
I'm glad he's finally reading it. It's so good.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's very accessible. You're gonna fall in love with Vanessa and Joan. You're gonna learn a lot about space in the 80s and like the NASA program, which
Yeah.
I found particularly fascinating because I don't know a whole lot about it. So you're gonna learn something new and from a different perspective. So yeah. And all of her books are very easy to read. You know, I think some authors,
Yeah.
sometimes quite gifted authors, their writing can be a bit dense or abstract or you know, just difficult to process what exactly it is they're trying to convey. Like I had that issue earlier with what is it, Death Takes Me, which is the only book so far I've DNF'd this year. And
Oh.
yeah, I know. And
Who's the author of that one?
it's oh God, Christina Garza, I think is her name. She's a Spanish author, and the book was translated. And it's
Oh.
kind of this like poetic prose, and she makes a lot
Yeah.
of references to things that I think probably hold a lot of weight in Spanish culture and art, but I don't have a
Yeah.
lot of reference points for. And so I was just like, I can see that you were so gifted and this is going above my head. And I'm having to work way too hard just to read one page, and I'm not enjoying myself. I could see if I was still in my master's program or like my undergrad, like diving into this book in a class and, like unpacking it in a workshop of some kind or a seminar. But I was like, for me to just read this for fun, like this is this is too much work.
Text.
It's too much work. So yeah, and TTR books are obviously not like that at all. So yeah, highly recommend this book. Loved it so much. But yeah, let's do our literally the best or literally the worst. I'll be reading 5-star reviews from Goodreads. Kelsey's got 1 star.
One star. And I will say there were few 1 stars.
Good, as there should be for this book.
I think this book had the 4 point something rating.
Yeah, it does.
It was very high rating.
Yeah.
Okay, my first review is from Faye, and I just had to include it. It's very, very short. Not for me, but Katy Perry would love this.
Oh, God. Does Katy Perry read? I don't even know if she does.
Who knows? Who knows? But she was so obsessed with going to space. So.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. Well,
it's too funny.
My first 5-star is also a shorter one, but not that short. So this is from Sophia Jane Miller. I saw someone say that this book feels like TJR is breaking your heart while simultaneously giving you a forehead kiss. And I simply couldn't agree with that more. I couldn't put this book down. And when I did have to, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The characters were everything to me, and I already miss them so much. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I like that.
I really did enjoy the characters. They just were very in depth. Even just thinking about Lydia and who she is, like, yeah.
And she Barbara. Was like, she's like a side character, right? But she still was so well developed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. My second review, it's a little longer, from Reading Tamishly.
Okay.
Do you know what that means? Is that like a play on Tamsin, or is it a play on something else? It's not a word.
No idea. It's not
okay. You would know better than me. Okay. She did not have enough coffee while writing this book. Theme on glamour worked. Theme on sports worked. Theme on romance worked. Theme on music worked. Theme on love triangle worked. Theme on infidelity worked. Theme on loss worked. But this theme went right out of space. Not even once it felt like I was reading a TJR book. I thought it might get better, as it usually does with good books, but my life seemed shorter and shorter as the book got longer and longer. I'm not sorry for the rating and how much I got bored while reading this book, which took place in 4 different occasions. The dialogues are flat, the characters are flat, and nothing much is going on. Everything is flat, and the boredom got worse. TJR, you are my favorite, but this one is an easy miss.
Wait, what do they mean about the 4 different timelines? There's 2 storylines.
I know, which took place in 4 different occasions. I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
I was sensing it was talking about the timelines, but it really was only 2.
There's only 2,
I don't know.
This person sounds confused.
Also, all they really said was it was flat and they got bored.
That's crazy to me, because I feel like this is one of those books where, as the person my first review said, they're everything, like they're so well constructed, they're so in depth, they're so realistic. This book is so much about their relationships with each other.
Yeah.
Set against this high stakes backdrop of these space missions where like anything could go wrong and it's life and death.
Yeah.
Life or death. That's okay. All right. Well, thank you.
One person's opinion.
One person's opinion. Okay. Next 5-star is from Nina from Ninja's Books.
Okay.
I want to get this review right to honor the book properly. This is not a book you leave behind. It's a treasure that will live inside you as long as you live. I can't remember a love story that has touched me more, shattered my heart, and plastered it back together again. Transcending space and time, perfectly illustrated by a plot about reaching for the stars and pondering big questions. It never felt trite. Instead, I encountered again my childhood awe for the unknown, my thirst for knowledge, and looking for what makes me happy. There was also a wonderful subplot of the love between Joan and her sister's child. Their story was magical and real. Lastly, I cried. I cried so much that I needed to take a moment to just breathe. What kind of book is able to do that? This one. Yeah. Yeah,
I
I
actually did that
agree.
too.
Yeah.
I was like listening in bed and I was just sobbing and Cesario was next to me and I was just like, oh my God.
It's so powerful and it does break your heart and then it puts it back together at the
Yeah.
very end. But yeah, it was beautiful.
Okay, this is my longest one, but I
Okay.
thought it was important because it gives us things to talk about.
Okay.
Okay. And it's a different perspective than us. Women in STEM commentary. Oh, this is from Sarah Taft, by the way.
Okay.
I am tired. This commentary is tired. The horse is beat. The cow is dry. The cupboard is bare. Choose your metaphor and it's applicable here. Every instance of feminist commentary has been said a dozen times before, and it's been said a dozen times better. There's no new or unique approach, no ingenious or special message. It's period piece Ali Hazelwood. And I mean that as an explicit insult. Maybe this is just my response since this is my field, a sort of occupational hazard reaction coupled with the dangers of reading this close to home. I don't know. Maybe others feel differently, but I'm tired. Do better. In the second portion, because this review was much longer and I clipped 2 different portions of it.
Okay.
Religion in the face of science and queerness. I almost don't know how to begin to address this in a way that fully captures my ire. How do you say?
Ire.
So I'll simply start with a few relevant quotes. I'm passionate about the Milky Way, Joan said, and I think God's in it. And I think the pursuit of finding one law to explain the universe is, yes, science, but it's also the pursuit of God. You are wasted being a scientist. This is Vanessa now. You should be an evangelical preacher with that kind of face and all this compelling proselytizing. Punch me in the face and piss on the wound. No, seriously. There are some scientists who are religious and ascribe to this mentality. Yes, Einstein was one of them, but especially in conservative and religious circles, he is regularly cherry-picked as an example despite his beliefs not being pervasive among modern astrophysicists. So very few of us are religious. So very few of us believe in God. And if you want to look historically, there are tons of other big names in the field who were vocal activists, active atheists, Hawking, Feynman, Schrodinger, and I can't pronounce the last one. If you want to write a protagonist whose belief structure is accurately represented of the astrophysics collective, this is not how you do it. So thank you, Sarah.
I'm glad she mentioned that because we didn't talk about religion at all.
Yeah.
It does come up quite a few times in conversations, particularly the one that you just mentioned in the quote. Yeah, I can imagine reading a book about your field as a woman and having strong feelings about how it's conveyed. That makes so much sense to me. And as someone who is not in that position, obviously I can't speak to that from the I perspective, but I think she makes valid points. Like I'm not going to be like, oh, you're wrong. And I would give her opinion more weight than, mine even because I'm not in that field, and even more than TGR because yes, she did her research, but she's not in that field either. I think the only thing I would push back on maybe is the whole feminist, like this has been said before, like this is tired. And it's like, well, if something is true, of course you're going to encounter it many times in many different ways. Right. And so I don't know that TJR was trying to say something new about feminism in this novel. I don't actually think that was the point. And if you're writing a historical book that takes place in the 80s, the characters are going to reflect the thinking about feminism in the 80s. So it's going to feel dated to us. It's going to feel old and tired because it is. You're not going to have them like talking about 21st century approaches to feminism in the 1980s. Like that would be anachronistic and make no sense. So I will push back on that. But yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember the commentary about God in the book other than this moment. Do you remember the other instances? Was Joan religious? Is that what was coming on?
I mean, I remember her referencing God a couple of times. She doesn't come off as like extremely religious. Like there's no talk of her, attending religious services or having any sort of faith practices. Yeah. So for me, I didn't think it was a big deal because I think it is possible to be a scientist and also believe in some sort of divine being. Like, I don't think those two things are like mutually exclusive. So yeah, I wonder if this person is like making a bigger deal of it than it is.
Because it didn't come off to me that either character was religious. And I think Vanessa even talks about her mother disowning her or something, or maybe it was Joan who didn't want to go to church when they were older or younger or whatever. And then I felt like this was a joke from Vanessa about being an evangelical preacher. I didn't feel like she was talking about like realistically being a preacher, right?
No,
like
she's being sarcastic.
Yeah.
There. And the other thing too is, again, that I think this reviewer is missing is this is historical fiction. It takes place in the 80s. Granted, less people were religious in the 80s than they were in like the 40s or the 50s, right? But it still was quite pervasive in American culture for a lot of households to be Protestant or Catholic or have some sort of faith.
Exactly.
And so like that to me tracks like that Joan and some of the other characters. And again, she's talking about her experience now, this reviewer. Like in the 21st century, like a lot of us don't have faith. A lot of us don't believe in God. But I'm like, that maybe wasn't the case back in the 80s, right? So again, she's taking her perspective from 2025 and putting it on this story and judging it by that criteria. And I don't think that's always a great thing to do with historical fiction.
Yeah. And I just don't think that there was like a strong idea of God in this.
No, I agree.
I don't think, I think that's missing. Like, I think, but also like you're saying, it was embedded in the lives of people back then. Yeah. And especially thinking about their identity being queer and lesbians. Yeah. And knowing that's contradicting the current norm, right? Yeah. Which is religious and just society at large. And so I think that putting it in there, it supports what TJR is trying to convey.
Yeah. Yeah. And also like they're in Texas.
Yeah. all of the things,
not
right?
The setting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And I like that review though. That led to some conversation that we didn't talk about earlier. Yeah. Okay. I think this next one is also my longest one, but it's not super, super long. Okay. This is from Violet. Any book that makes me sob is an automatic 5 stars. Taylor Jenkins Reid's talent, passion, and imagination shine through in everything she creates. I can count on her to break my heart every single time and will always willingly sign up for it over and over again. Although I'm not overly fascinated by space, as an 80s baby, I grew up with a certain appreciation for the astronauts I witnessed making history in real time, those who made it back to share their stories, and especially those who didn't. As with so many of TJR's books, this all felt so real. It felt like a true behind-the-scenes look into what it was like for those who were creating history in the 1980s at NASA. Atmosphere, a love story, was just that. So much love, whether it be forbidden, unconventional, passionate, found family, or even lost love. Love is love and always is a story worth telling. Quote, because people never fall in love with who they should. This whole world is full of stories of people falling in love with exactly who they weren't supposed to, unquote. It would be hard to do this book justice by trying to sum it up in a few words. I could go on and on. Profound plus perfect come to mind first. The only thing that would make Atmosphere better is if the screen adaptation were already complete. Ooh, I do hope they make this a movie. Oh my God.
Would
could
be
you imagine?
Amazing.
Like if they did it right, it would be absolutely freaking phenomenal.
Yes.
And I feel like we have so many space stories about men, like even the one that's coming out next year, Project Hail Mary, the book that I read. Again, it's a dude in space. There's so many dudes in space stories. I want to see like a female in space story with this plot. Oh God, it would be amazing. Okay.
The other thing that this person said was this whole book is about people falling in love with who they shouldn't. And I'm like, oh, that actually tracks. Okay. So Barbara as well.
Yeah.
It's like she falls in love with a guy that doesn't want children, even though she has a fucking child.
Right.
And then even Donna.
Griff falls in love with Joan and like she's not interested.
Yeah. And Donna and Hank, they talk about astronauts not falling in love because one of them could easily die, which is what happens. Anyway, that was intriguing. Okay. Last review from me. It's a shorter one from Casey with a K. If Joan was a spice, she'd be flour.
Okay.
It's not
flour.
that short. It's not that short. Just can't. TJR is my favorite author, but my God, ... The characters, boring. The plot, boring. The romance, boring. The pacing, boring. The vibes, boring. The plot felt so unfinished and pointless. I hated myself for not DNFing this.
Oh my God. Wait, is that it?
That's it. That's it.
Okay. Well, their
I don't
favorite
understand why they
adjective is
think
boring. I
everything is
don't.
boring.
Yeah. I mean, I guess some people, and I did see this here and there scattered about. Some people are like, there's so much information and detail about space and space travel. And I'm like, I didn't think so. Like, there's definitely a fair amount in there, but you know how some books, like for me, Project Hail Mary did this, where it's like, I don't need this much information about the nitty gritty calculations that you're making because I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand this at that level. Like my expertise is not in this field, and you giving me like the math equations that you're using to solve for whatever over my head, don't understand it, does nothing for me. And I don't think she does that. Like all of the information that she conveys in this book is in layman's terms that anyone I think can understand. So,
and also I didn't like retain a lot of that. So if you focus in on like what you're interested in, like it doesn't phase you really.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
And it doesn't get in the way of you understanding the overall story either. So
not at all.
Yeah. Anyhow. Okay. Last 5-star from Emma Catherine.
Let's get it.
Can't stop crying. I have been thinking hard about my review for this book. And honestly, I can't think of anything to say that even begins to express my absolute love for this book. But I can say, TJR, I could read your words forever. I was emotionally invested in this story all the way from the author's note at the beginning, right until the very last word. This book has so much going for it, but most of all, it is about true and pure love that comes in many different forms. These incredibly brave and memorable characters show us how to do that. Quote, the world would not care for her and Vanessa as they cared for each other. Quote, that is all for me for now. Yeah, it is just love in all of its beautiful many forms. Yeah, because it's
really
not,
is.
it's not just Joan and Vanessa's love story.
No.
There's so many relationships in this book that display love in all of its different permutations, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah. So good. But so glad I had to read this book. So glad you gave it 5 stars. I will probably have you read another TJR book in the future.
I might read TJR on my own.
You should. I would recommend Daisy Jones and the Six. Like, freaking love that book.
What was
so
the
much.
other?
There's
you
was,
also, you were not the only one that recommended Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Because that came up in our previous episode.
And someone else mentioned it to me. Oh, it was a coworker at work. I was like, have you read Taylor Jenkins Reid? You need to read this book.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, in education in general, like a lot of folks are readers.
Of course, yeah. Yeah.
And so I have tons of people to talk to at work about books.
Well, if you read Seven Husbands, I just heard recently that I think Netflix acquired the rights for it. So it's going to be made into, I guess, I'm assuming a Netflix movie, not a, well, it could be a miniseries. That could be cool because obviously she has a lot of relationships, but you should definitely read that one as well.
And then we can highlight it too here.
Yeah. But do you want to do socials for folks as we wrap things up?
So this is a long episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And just to redirect you at the end here, we are on Instagram at litvibesonly_podcast. And we're at TikTok and YouTube at litvibesonlypodcast. And to kind of give you an update, we're actually going to be seeing a social media specialist. So you might be seeing us up in our game here soon. So
it's true.
Stay tuned for that. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, same. But yes, definitely check out our socials. And as always, we'll be doing voting on Thursday. So make sure to hop on our socials on Thursday and let us know if this book was a lit it or quit it for you. Join the conversation because we want to hear from all of you.
Yes.
And we will see you next Monday.
Bye.
Bye.